Hi everyone, my name is Holly Ellis and I work for Amazon Web Services, and I lead the UK Public Sector Solution Architecture team, which is a team of about 65 solution architects, and we support customers in healthcare, education, not-for-profit, local government and other public sector customers as well. So today I'm going to tell you a little bit about my career journey to AWS. Hopefully you'll learn a little along the way, and I hope you find it interesting. So I'll start by telling you a little bit about my journey to this role and some of the things I've learned along the way. So I left education after my A-levels, and in the UK that is kind of college level learning. So I didn't go to university and I didn't get a degree, and in part that's because I really didn't know what I wanted to do and I didn't really feel ready to commit. I had a place at university and I wasn't really sure about the course that I wanted to do, and I just felt that it wouldn't be a good use of time and money. So I sat around at home for a while wondering what on earth I was going to do. And my dad kind of forced me. He said, you've got to get up, go and get a job, anything. And so he introduced me to a few people, and those people kind of helped me with some interview techniques and put me in touch with other people that could help me get started on my career. It didn't go so well, to be honest with you. I didn't get any of the jobs that I interviewed for, first of all. But actually, one of the contacts then said, look, I've actually got an opportunity. Why don't you come and work for me? And that's where it all started. And it kind of set me on a path that I couldn't have imagined or planned. So it was all quite accidental. And I feel, looking back at my career, that most of the roles I've taken on have been kind of by chance or opportunities just presenting themselves rather than having a deliberate plan. But it seems to have worked out, and I'm really pleased with the decisions that I made along the way. And I'm going to share some of the lessons that I've learned from doing those. So I've been in the technology industry now in one guise or another for about 20 years. And when I reflect back on the different roles that I've delivered, I noticed there were some distinct themes that have been consistent throughout. So it should come as no surprise to me, really, that those themes align to Amazon's leadership principles. And it's probably why I find myself in the most satisfying role that I've ever held. And by way of explanation, the Amazon leadership principles are a set of standards that all Amazonians aspire to every day. So they're ingrained in our culture, and they clearly explain the kinds of behaviors that we value, and are shorthand really for doing the right thing for us, the right thing for our teams, the right things for our customers. So I'm going to share some of these themes with you, those themes that I recognized were quite consistent throughout every role that I've delivered. I'm going to introduce you to the leadership principles here at Amazon, and then I'm just going to offer some career tips. And those are really based on my own personal reflection as well, and hopefully you'll find them useful. So I've worked for lots of different types of organizations, and within them I've taken on a variety of different roles. I've kind of summarized it here on this slide. But within each of those different organizations I worked for, or each of those different roles, I've actually had kind of different experiences. So one of them, I'll just pull it out, like the account director role, and the same within the UK government. That wasn't just one role. I ended up delivering 3 or 4 different roles. And it wasn't because I was bored of what I was doing or I was too challenged in what I was doing. It was more that an opportunity came along and it just felt like a great learning opportunity. And so I took it. And I was always really concerned when doing that maybe it would affect my CV, kind of my resume. Would people think that I just jump around to different roles all the time? That's always been a concern of mine. But actually, on reflection, in doing that and taking those opportunities on, even when I felt like I was going to be really challenged in doing so, it's opened up even more opportunities and given me more experiences than I could ever have imagined. So I guess just like an early tip is not to be too concerned about taking on different roles in different types of organizations. And maybe for your career path, not to look completely neat. It certainly stood me in good stead in doing that. And I'm glad, even though it's something that I had worried about previously. So just focusing on kind of starting out and at the very beginning of my career, I started as an account manager for a small digital agency. This is the role that I told you about after my dad told me that I needed to go out and get a job. And we served a broad range of customers, from healthcare to police forces. I worked very closely with designers and developers. We were a really small company, which meant that you got hands-on with lots of different things, even though I didn't have any experience in the first instance. And it was those designers and developers who taught me kind of basic coding skills. And if you think back, this was 20 years ago. So we were building static websites, e-commerce platforms, web content management systems. It was really quite basic, but at the time it didn't feel really basic. And it was my first real introduction to technology. And kind of growing up, I didn't have a massive interest in technology. We didn't have gaming consoles at home. I wasn't in that environment, and it would never have been a consideration of mine to go into a technology career at that point. And so taking on this role, it opened up my eyes to the possibilities of technology in a way that I just could never have imagined this was a job that I was going to do or a career path that I was going to take. But there were some very distinct themes in my role. So the first one was engaging with customers, which is something that I really, really enjoyed. Working with lots and lots of different people. I'm really interested in people anyway. I love finding out about how their business works, what their challenges are, what they're trying to achieve, and finding solutions to help them, and then actually deliver on those solutions as well. So those were the two kind of first themes in this role, was kind of customer obsession and delivering results, which are the actual Amazon leadership principles. And working in a small organization did mean that I had to get hands-on and deliver lots of things. And for me, like, delivery is really important. You know, I know when I've had a really good week, when I feel like I've pushed something out, I've delivered it. It's, you know, nothing's ever finished, but, you know, I feel like I've actually delivered what I set out to do. So when I look back now, actually, it's those two themes that have been consistent in everything that I've done. And like I say, align really, really nicely with the Amazon leadership principles, which I've just put on the screen as well. So gaining industry experience, this is kind of like the next kind of chunk of my career journey. So it was after this first role, I moved on and gained experience working both on the customer and the supplier side. And, you know, some people kind of maybe find that a little bit strange, but it's something that I've really enjoyed, kind of flipping from one to the other. So, you know, I've managed a website. Again, this was kind of more than a decade ago now, but in local government, I managed a website and all their applications. And, you know, I still had customers when I worked there, but my customers were internal stakeholders. I had to work really closely with them to get them on board with what we were doing to help meet their internal requirements. I also managed an intranet for a charity. That was really good fun. I had to do everything from writing content, writing comms plans, actually managing all the technology behind the intranet itself as well, and kind of training other people to help me. And I love that. And in fact, that's something that I did in every role as well, is build teams of people, regardless of who they were, their experience or their level, to come help build stuff with me, because quite often I was either the only person running something and I needed extra help, and I love training other people. So in both those two roles, actually, I was able to build kind of big teams of people and develop their technology and digital skills too. So that was really good fun, working on internal systems and kind of on the customer side. And I also worked in 3 central government departments, and it was through those 2 roles that I just spoke about that I started building my management experience. It was either management of teams that I kind of didn't directly line manage, or then managing quite small teams that I did line manage. And I really enjoyed leadership and management skills as well. And so in central government, I was leading teams as large as 250 people of digital data and technology specialists. And when I think about it, the work I'd done in those early roles to work with lots of different types of people, so user researchers or content designers or comms specialists, or, you know, the people that were running services within local government, like kind of housing specialists or social care specialists. You know, I ended up learning so much about different disciplines, different roles, different people, that actually when I came to lead the teams in central government, where they were really large and really diverse, all that prior experience had really helped me be able to empathize and understand different people's profession, like all the skills that you need to actually build a digital service or run a technology function. And I've also worked for commercial organizations as well, so not just internal roles. So working for the commercial organizations, I was always serving the public sector. And yeah, that was really important to me. I needed to know that the work that I was delivering really mattered and made a difference. Even in the commercial industry, I've always wanted to maintain a focus on the public sector. And that was really important to me when I had children as well. Yeah, I found kind of having children and going back to work quite difficult. So knowing that I was delivering value and that I believed in the outcomes the organization was delivering was really important. And I've been really fortunate that in every role that I've delivered, I might not have necessarily agreed with everything the organization was doing, but I had an affinity to our purpose, you know, and I cared about what we were doing, and I felt that it was important. And no more so than AWS and being part of our response to like the exceptionally challenging situation we've all been in this last year. Just knowing that we're making a difference to people's lives really matters to me. So working as both the customer and working as the supplier, and always working in the public sector, has provided me with a really deep understanding of different organizations, different perspectives. You know, for example, I've been the person that's kind of written the requirements in a tender, but I've also been on the supplier side where I've had to be the person that's responding to the tender. So having both sides of that experience has really helped me understand where people are coming from, why are they asking for things, like how are they thinking about what they want to achieve, and how can I respond in the best possible way to make sure that we're delivering value and really addressing what they want. So working on those both sides has just provided me with really great experience, and I've enjoyed both sides of it as well. It's also meant that I've needed to get into the detail of understanding how decisions were made and how I'd move an organisation forward. And I've worked with people at all levels in the organisations as well, bringing teams together to deliver a shared goal, and understanding that kind of different business models. And that's the third consistent theme actually of my career, is really diving deep into different businesses and understanding what they want to achieve, and staying really close to the detail of like what's driving this organization. And that industry experience I've gained has really helped. And if I think back to the slide I showed at the beginning, just of the different roles, and I explained that, you know, even within those organizations, I've done different roles, not just one. And that has really helped, give me a real breadth of experience that I don't think I would otherwise have gained if I'd stayed in one particular industry or one particular role for a very long time. So there's a really nice alignment from gaining industry experience to our Amazon leadership principle for diving deep. So then I found myself kind of reflecting a little bit on my career. And as my career progressed, and I explained, I kind of managed teams that they weren't like, I wasn't their line manager. They didn't directly report to me, but I had to bring people together to deliver something. And then I had managed quite small teams and moved on to deliver even larger teams. And it was kind of, I naturally gravitated to the management and the leadership roles. I really enjoyed being the evangelist for my team or for my customer or for the organization that I worked for. And I enjoyed developing people as well. Like I've helped a lot of people develop their own careers, and I've mentored a lot of people as well. And I love setting the strategy and collaborating with other people to deliver outcomes. But when I was doing a bit of self-reflection, I've always kept abreast of technology. Obviously, it's been, a key part of every role that I've delivered. I've needed to know how technology works. I've needed to know what options are available. I've needed to be able to make good decisions and understand the art of the possible. So we're always innovating. I ensured that I was always kind of able to support the increasingly broad and complex technology needs of the organizations I worked for. And over time, it just got kind of bigger and more complex. However, the responsibilities of leading teams of hundreds of people and managing critical services and supporting the most senior stakeholders meant that I started to neglect my depth of technical knowledge. I mean, really, my real depth was at the very early start of my career. And then as I moved into the more management and leadership roles, I was far less hands-on and far less focused on real delivery, but enabling others to deliver. And obviously that's really important in terms of being a leader and enabling others to deliver. But I felt like I was missing some of those key skills myself, and also the satisfaction I got from delivering something personally as well. So I was always learning, but what I was learning was kind of within a new comfort zone on strategy and leadership skills. And it had been years since I'd been hands-on in a technical role. And I started to wonder and kind of question myself and reflect on whether I was really doing justice to the teams that I was leading. Was I making the best decisions for the organization? Was I guiding the team well enough? Was I kind of respecting their technical depth enough by, with my own kind of ability to kind of challenge and engage with people on the technical challenges that they were facing? And also, was I still inspiring them? If I had not delivered something in a while myself, and I'm expecting all my teams to, how was I really inspiring them through my own learnings and stories and kind of enabling them as well as I could? So this is where Amazon Web Services comes in, and the Learn and Be Curious leadership principle, which is probably one of my favorite leadership principles. So when the opportunity came along to join AWS, I was really excited, but also really daunted. Someone once said to me when considering taking on a role themselves, they'd ask themselves how challenging they'd find that role. And if the answer was very, they'd take it. And I thought that's what I was doing as well. Some of the roles I took on were, excuse me, really enormous in terms of size and scale and complexity. Particularly some of the public services that my teams were delivering and supporting. So I felt like I was doing that. I felt like I was really challenging and stretching myself. But actually, what I was really doing was, focused on the challenge of the scale of the organization, or the scale of the role, or learning about a new organization or a new business type, which is what I've done throughout my whole career. I wasn't really challenging my technical knowledge or the skills that I hadn't been quite so focused on, having taken on broader management responsibilities. So it was a really, really big step for me to commit to taking on a role at AWS with the most enormous amount of amazing technical specialists and putting myself in that environment. But I have to say it's the best step that I've taken on my journey so far. And I've probably learned more in the last 14 months I've been here than in the past several years prior. And it's with much credit to the space that Amazon gives you to learn. It's such an important part of our organization. And this is obviously why we have the leadership principle. And since joining, I've taken several AWS certifications and passed, which is very pleasing. I exceeded kind of the expectations I had of myself as well. I haven't had to do any kind of certifications or exams for a long time. And it's not something that I necessarily enjoy myself. I get very nervous taking exams, as I'm sure most people do. But it was really, really good to challenge myself in that way. And the satisfaction I got from learning new skills, addressing that nervousness I had around putting myself in a position of learning new technical skills, and then knowing that I could still do it as well, was enormously satisfying. And not only that, at AWS, I've been able to get that balance back of being a leader and being technically knowledgeable and getting hands-on in delivery and continually learning. And those are the things that kind of excited me most in my early career. If you remember at the beginning, I was talking about working with customers and understanding what they want, delivering results, and getting experience from different types of organizations and learning. And actually, I've been able to do all of those things in a way that maybe over the kind of more recent years before joining AWS, I hadn't been able to do. And I started to think that, it turns out that you can have it all. And the focus that Amazon gives to the leadership principles, really helps. It reminds us to make sure that we're focused on all those different elements of delivering results for customers and developing ourselves at the same time. So looking back now to the themes that have been important to me throughout my career journey, I've started to think perhaps I was destined for a career at AWS, because without even knowing it, the things that matter to me are the leadership principles that AWS set for everyone. So look, here are my tips. I hope you find them useful. They really are personal tips that I've come up with just based on my own reflections. So the first one is, take on opportunities that challenge you, that you can learn from you, but they will give you two things: good breadth and good depth of knowledge, as both are really valuable. And on reflection, I've been very focused on the breadth, and I've forgotten a little bit about the depth. So my second one is to keep hold of the depth as you progress. If you find the thing you love and that you're passionate about, you don't have to let go of that. Like, keep it current. Don't do what I did and reflect a little bit after that maybe you'd neglected an area of your skills that actually are really important to you and the things that you enjoy. So if you don't hold on to it, you might miss it. So make sure that you give focus and attention to the depth of your experience as you progress. So don't overthink your end destinations. I could never have imagined working at AWS. I have absolutely no regrets as the journey I took to get here. I've learned so much along the way. I've met the most amazing people along that journey, and been involved in some kind of weird and wonderful organizations and challenges and projects that I would never have planned to. I would never even have known they existed if I hadn't taken on the opportunities that came up along the way. So just don't overthink that end destination. You never know. The next one is nothing is forever. And this is one I tell myself. So when a new opportunity has come along, I do think about things very carefully. I've pondered for a long time. I pondered for a long time over joining AWS. I've worked through the pros and cons. Sometimes I do that with my kids, by the way, as well. Children are always really, really honest, and they're quite good at helping with the pros and cons and decision making. And some of the things that I've thought is like, my job's going well. I love it. I've enjoyed most of my roles. Like, why would I give that up? I work with brilliant people. There are so many people I've met along my way that I've felt when a new opportunities come along, like I'm going to really miss them. I don't want to leave this team. I've also felt like I'm going to let people down. I feel like I'm, if things are going really well, I felt like I haven't wanted to leave people behind. But then I've just had to say to myself, look, nothing is forever. Like, what am I going to learn from this opportunity? Is it a good opportunity for me personally? And is it going to help me move further forward and learn more than I have done so far? And if the answer's been yes, then I've taken that opportunity. And, in hindsight, I've stayed in touch with all those brilliant people. And, I still talk to people I worked with years ago on a regular basis. We still share things with each other. And they've excelled as well. So this strategy hasn't failed me in terms of just feeling free to take on opportunities, knowing that nothing's forever. And if it isn't right for you, another opportunity will come along, and you definitely will have learned things by having taken it on. And my last one is that you can have it all within reason. Being a leader doesn't mean that you have to step away from delivering or being close to the detail or the technology. I've learned a lot, like I said, but most significantly, I've learned that you don't have to sacrifice depth for career progression. And if that happens, it's probably the organization and their culture rather than the definition of a leader. And I'd always previously thought that I did need to step away from some of those things in order to take on leadership and management roles. But actually, having worked at AWS, I've realized that's not the case. And it was probably on me as well for having thought that it was. So that's it. It's a very quick snapshot of my career journey into AWS. Thank you for listening to my talk. I hope you enjoyed it. And if I've piqued your interest in AWS and you want to come and build a future with us, please feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn or check out our roles on Amazon.jobs. And if you've got any questions for me personally, I'd be happy to answer them as well. So look, I hope you have a great day, and thank you so much for listening.